Hey friends, welcome to another video, and in this video we're going to be talking about the book Peaks and Valleys. You can't really read it because there's like a glare, but there it is. I made some notes, so I'm going to refer to them because there are so many things we need to unpack from this book. But basically, it's a story of a young man who learns how to turn his lowest point into his highest breakthrough. And I scripted this originally to tell you this story, but I didn't find it as effective as talking about the lessons learned from the book. So let's get started. So basically, this idea of peaks and valleys is a way to create an analogy of how we go through life. Everyone experiences ups and downs in life, and that is exactly what we're referring to in this book. So you have your peaks, your high moments where you're excited, where you have a breakthrough, where you reach the success that you're looking for, and then we have our valleys. We have those moments where we fail, we have setbacks, we have to reconsider the path that we're in. We have those dips that are really going to challenge us and see if we really want that thing bad enough to stick to it. So it's a common thing that we all experience in life. So when we meet our main character in the book, he's at this low moment. He's at a dip. He feels like there's no purpose or meaning for the things that he's doing with his life. He's frustrated and he decides to do something different. One thing that I want to point out, when we are in those valleys, it's so easy for us to compare our situation to other people. We start looking around, maybe someone is doing the same thing that we are and they're reaching success, and we feel even more frustrated because we feel stuck. Those moments are really critical for us to gain a holistic view of our situation. I think, as I pointed out, sometimes we want something, but we may not want it bad enough. We may not be really hungry for that. So we go and we try to make it happen. I really felt this with my clothing brand because although I wanted, at the same time, I didn't want it bad enough. I didn't love it bad enough. I would dread the work. I would dread doing some of the things because it just felt like a burden more than a fulfillment. Different than how I feel when I create content, because I've been creating content for over 10 years now, and it's so crazy, but I still feel excited and motivated, and I turn my camera on and I'm excited to learn about new things. And the mindset is completely different from when I do one thing versus another. So that is why during that dip, I decided to just quit my clothing business because I really didn't feel that drive that I needed to feel to keep going for a long term. So our main character, he sets off to a peak nearby. His goal is to reach the top during the day, but he fails. He doesn't reach it. He has to set up camp somewhere along the journey, and he meets the old man. And the old man is supposed to be kind of like the wise person that's going to give him all this wisdom. So it's really cool because as he feels frustrated because he didn't make it to the top, the old man is saying, hey, it's not all about the results. It's not all about the end goal, the outcome. It's also about the journey, because it's in the journey that you're going to learn things, that you're going to challenge yourself, that you're going to grow as a person. And sometimes we get so focused in that final moment that we do not enjoy the everyday, the actions. Sometimes I'm like, hey, shut up, okay? I'm gonna go out there and I'm gonna do this. So you always have to be changing the voices inside your head and making sure that the voice that speaks the strongest is who you are, is the voice that wants to achieve great things. And even in those daily conversations in your head, when you win and you go out there and you do the things that you're dreading, it's about those little wins. You're becoming stronger, you're creating momentum, and without all of this, you're not going to reach that success. But it's a learning journey. It's an ongoing, every day you got to do this thing. And I think it really brings out the best in you. It challenges you to become your best version. The peaks and valleys analogy is not just meant for you to analyze the highs and the lows of your life. It's also meant for you to challenge and assess how you feel about certain situations in life. So I'll give you an example. I have met people who have a disability, so technically they're put in a valley, but mentally they don't allow themselves to become a victim of that situation. So they're out there, they're doing things, they're challenging themselves, and they're gaining that momentum and their strength and confidence that comes with doing all of those things. Another way to look at this is by thinking about people who don't have any physical challenge, but are always in that valley mentally. I have met incredibly negative people on the internet, people who are so mean, who have really nothing good to say, nothing good in their heart. And that is also sad because, they are not physically in a valley. Maybe they live in a nice house, they have a great family, but mentally they're always in a valley. Somebody always has a better thing that they do. People are always doing better than them. So their default is to be negative. So technically, how you feel determines how you view the situation. When I lost my arm and I was still in the hospital, my mom was like, hey, you're gonna get out of this and you're gonna do great things and you're gonna, go after your goals and your dreams and you're gonna have a family and it's gonna be all right. You're gonna be all right. And I was like, yeah, you know what? Yeah, this is a challenge for sure, but I'm gonna be okay. I will make it through because I didn't want the situation to define me. I wanted to become better and improve and do great things with my life. And this is a great lesson because how you view a situation is exactly how you're going to feel about it. It's kind of like the glass half full idea. If you focus on the negative or if you focus on the empty part, you're going to feel upset. You're going to feel like you don't have enough. But the contrary is if you focus on the full half, then you're going to feel grateful and you're going to feel happy about what you have. So it all depends on how we view the situation. The peaks and valleys are connected. The mistakes and errors you make in today's good times will result in tomorrow's bad times. And the wise things that you do in today's bad times will result in tomorrow's good times. Peaks are the moments when you appreciate for what you have. The valleys are the moments where you long for what's missing. Just because someone may act a certain way, it does not mean that they are in the peak or in the valley. A lot of people are out there living in the valley. They're dealing with personal things that are very difficult, but they would never let you know because their attitude isn't of someone who is in the valley. Like I said before, it's all about your perspective, all about how you view the situation. But what's the difference? Most of these people, although they are in the valley, they're still grateful. They understand that those bad moments are an opportunity to learn something new, to become better, to grow. But most of us, we don't understand that. As a Christian, I try really hard to see bad situations as something positive. I know that there's a challenge there that will have a lesson which I'm supposed to learn. So in the good times or in the bad times, I try to cultivate a grateful heart because I know that all of those moments were prepared for me, for my growth, because I prayed for this. I've asked God to allow me to have opportunities where I can become wiser and I can become a source of motivation and inspiration for so many of you. So because I pray for that, I cannot be discouraged or upset if a challenge comes along my way because I know that challenge is going to propel me to becoming even better. And I've learned that the path out of the valley, it will come when you learn to see things differently. And here's the quote from the book. If you do not learn in the valley, you can become bitter. If you truly learn something valuable, you can become better. All right, so we've talked about the peaks, we've talked about the valleys. Now let's talk a little bit about plateaus. There's one situation in the book where our young man goes out into the plateau with his friends. He cannot see anything from there. He doesn't see the peak, he doesn't see the valley, nothing is going on. He's just kind of like, okay, like nothing happens here in the plateau. And he shares this experience with the old man. And I thought that this analogy was so great. So the old man says, think of life as the way your heart beats, okay? So you have peaks, valleys, right? Like that is how our heartbeat happens. And then he says, what happens if your heartbeat plateaus? There's no more life, right? Like that's it, you are done. But so many people out there are living in the plateau. They are alive, but yet they've reached that point where they just quit. They just kind of like, this is it. I'm not going to get anywhere. I'm not going to get any further. I'm done. And that is so sad. I honestly, I think it's one of the things that makes me sad in life, or when I meet people, is when I see someone that has just given up on their dreams, on the possibilities, on doing anything worthwhile, even if it's like becoming a better person. So many people, they have this idea that they got to change the world. We got to do something to change the city, to change the state, to change the country. Yet, they don't want to change themselves. They don't bother to look within and recognize that maybe they are also part of the problem. I talk to people all the time, and I am, online quite a bit. So I get to see all of these things, and there's so many terrible people out there. But then there's so many people who are just complacent, who are just kind of like, I can't do anything, so I'm just gonna not do anything. No, become better. Do something for you so you can go out there, so you can look in the mirror and be proud. So this valley idea was so critical for me to learn or to read about in this book, because it just brought all of these things. There's so many people that they're alive, but they've given up living. And obviously, I never wanted to be one of those people. And I recall to this day, I've shared in other videos, when I was in the hospital, my aunt said, hey, you can be the person where people are going to be like, oh my gosh, she does all of these things and she doesn't have an arm. Like, what's going on, Or you can be that person that people are going to look at and feel sorry for. You're going to feel diminished. You're going to feel like you're less than, if you just decide to be a victim. If you just say, this happened to me, so I'm just going to quit. I'm just, and then people would look at me and just say, you know what? She doesn't have an arm. Like, let's cut her some slack. No, hell no. That is not the way I wanted to live my life. And that is why I wanted to share this book with you, because I thought this moment was so brilliant, the way that it was explained. And it's such an easy book to read. So anyway, moving on. Let's switch gears a little bit and talk about ego. So in the book, they talk about how sometimes when you are in the peak, you tend to think that things are better than they really are. Similarly, if you are in the valley, you think that things are worse than they really are, right? So how many of you have had a breakup and you were devastated, but then a week later you were like, it's probably the best, life goes on, But at the moment when you are in the valley, you feel like you will just not make it, right? So that is one situation. But you may be in the peak, and maybe you got a promotion at your job, and all of a sudden you think you are the man, you or the woman. You are walking around like you own the place, right? So we can be fooled by our ego because we think that things are not necessarily as reality would say they are. So because our ego distorts the truth, we need to be able to put our feet down and really critically assess our situation. Our old man also shares the sensible vision. And having a sensible vision means that although you may be in the valley, you can see the peak. You can imagine where it is that you want to go. It's important as I share more personal and professional development, I want to make sure that you can figure it out what it is that you want in your life. Because if you don't know where you're going, if you don't know what you would like to accomplish, it's really hard to obtain this sensible vision and be able to understand that this is just a moment in the valley, but that's where I'm going. That's where my goal is. So I didn't have this for a very long time, and I'm hoping to share more and more about this with you because I kept doing many different things and spreading myself thin as opposed to taking all of my energy and focusing on one thing. So I really hope that you understand this a little more in the upcoming videos because it's really critical for you to make any move, to be able to leave any valley, to be able to get on with your life and towards your goals. You really need to know what it is that you want to accomplish. So we'll come back to this topic in a future video. All right, so we're gonna wrap up this video, but I do wanna share some final thoughts from the book with you. In the beginning of the book, our young man, he lives in the valley and he's longing for purpose and meaning for his life. In the end of the book, he says this: I was just trying to escape the valley, not learn from it. And I really love that because it makes you recognize that you cannot try to take a shortcut in life. If you learn about or read about any very successful business person, they will all tell you that they've been through the terrible things and then they were able to reach success. So in reality, you need to be able to go through the valley and not around it, not try to find the shortcut. No, there isn't. Okay, so just by living and learning is when you become better and you become greater. Then he says, find the truth in every situation. How can you use the good that's hidden in this bad time? You get out of the valley sooner when you manage to get outside yourself. At work, by being of greater service, and in life, by being more loving. The valley is a time that you long for what's missing, and the peak is a time when you appreciate what you have. It's not about where the person lives, but how a person lives. And then finally, in the very, very, very end, he says, share this with others. And I would love for you to share this video with a friend and carry on this message of positivity. I think in the times that we're living now, it's so critical that we don't share terrible news, but we share good news. We share positive news. I got a comment on TikTok the other day and it was like, oh, among all of the craziness of the world, your content brings me joy and positivity and happiness. So honestly, go out there, spread more good out there for people because that's really what we need. And remember that to change the world, it starts with us, with being honest and responsible for our actions, being honest with ourselves, doing a humble inquiry of how we need to improve. And that's gonna be one more person becoming better out there in the world. So if we can get everybody to do that, that's how we change the world, okay? So share this with a friend. If you're not subscribed to the channel yet, please subscribe and I will see you on the next video. Thank you so much for being here and that's it. Bye.